Benavidez Morrell, who wins?
It's going to be a good fight. It's going to be a good fight. 50-50 fight.
I think that it's going to be a war. In my eyes, I see it as a 50-50 fight.
Fighters. I think David Morrell may have needed, one or two more real tests before he really, build the resolve to be able to handle a guy with the ability, the power.
Boxing pros have revealed their picks for the David Benavidez versus David Morrell fight. Shawn Porter favors Benavidez to overcome Morrell in their 12-round main event this Saturday, February 1st at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Porter shares a perspective common among pro-Benavidez supporters, favoring Benavidez due to his deeper experience in the professional arena. Compared to the 11-0, Morrell, he believes Benavidez holds the edge over Morrell. The seasoned competition Benavidez has faced in the pros sets apart at 36. Andrade has passed his prime, and Canelo Alvarez had already taken out Plant Ben's victories over them. Don't do much to boost his credibility in this matchup, if anything.
And man, how do you think Benavidez does? Your gym mate a week after you fight. How do you think that fight goes with Morrell, man?
I think David, he's looking very good. I've been in the gym with him for the past few weeks, and he's been looking great shape, doing some amazing things in the ring. Like always, David's a monster. So I think he'll take care of business February 1st. I think he might even get the stoppage against David Morrell.
Those fights only reinforce the uncertainty surrounding him. We are aware that Benavidez did not look good in his June debut matchup with Alexander Gazik. He was wounded by the more powerful combatant, ran out of gas, and shown little strength. Shawn Porter shared that the fight is pretty evenly matched, with a slight edge to Benavidez, whom he favored 55-45. He expressed his excitement about the matchup, calling it a David versus David fight, and noting that he loved everything about it. Porter went on to explain that Benavidez had the advantage over Morrell. In terms of experience and strength, he pointed out that while both fighters were large, he believed Benavidez was more naturally suited for the 175 LB division. He emphasized that Benz's experience in enduring resistance throughout various stages, if a 12-round fight, would play a crucial role, something that Morrell hadn't yet faced at the professional level. According to Porter, Morrell's previous fight against Ravia Khalidze, which was a different kind of challenge, didn't involve the kind of resistance that a competitive 12-round bout would bring. Porter points out that Morrell has yet to face an opponent who brings relentless pressure or matches the sheer size of the cruiserweight like Benavidez, while Morrell handled Ravo Kadik with.
Morrell is a guy that you can't take lightly, He's a great fighter. He's up there for a reason, One of the best Cubans out right now, so it's going to be a great fight, but I just feel like David is one of those guys too who's a monster and just doesn't let anyone take it from him, And when he's in there, he's going in there for the kill, and of course, I feel like Morrell is maybe going to be his toughest opponent yet.
Ease in his 175-pound debut on August 3rd. Last year, he wasn't forced onto the back foot the way Benavidez is expected to push him this Saturday. Ravo packs more power in his single punches than Benavidez, but he wasn't looking to smother Morrell with relentless volume like the Mexican monster intends to. If Benavidez charges in recklessly, he could walk straight into Morrell's sharp counters or get folded by a well-placed body shot. Benz's debut at 175 LABs was even more underwhelming than Morrell's performance against Alexander Gazik on June 15th last year. He ran out of steam after 8 rounds and found himself in serious trouble in the 12th. When Gazik him in the final 30 seconds, Benavidez was little more than a stationary target absorbing. A barrage of punishing combinations from the Ukrainian Porter explained that Benavidez was capable of matching Morrell in both power and speed, and he could also box with him effectively. He added that this type of resistance would challenge Morrell, mentally creating a roller coaster ride during the fight. According to Porter, while Benavidez had experienced that kind of mental and physical challenge before Morrell had, we have no clue if Benavidez can go toe-to-toe with Morrell without hitting.
He'll be, I think, one of the, more gifted fighters that Benavidez has faced. I think David Morrell comes in with a lot of talent. And you got, a guy that has a talent like both of these guys, and they rise to the occasion. It's the moment that really gets these guys up. And I think this is a type of fight that you can say is going to bring the best out of both of these guys, man.
The canvas, sure, he proved he could trade shots with the smaller, aging 168-pounders who padded his early record. But that approach fell apart at 175 against Gastic. He got rocked, then pointed fingers at his injured hands, an excuse that sounded more like damage control than reality. He might get knocked out early, like Morrell has the ability to chip away at Benavidez's head, which is like a block of granite, as we witnessed in his bout. With Gusk, Benavidez absorbs headshot far better than body blows, a vulnerability that makes sense. His love for food often leads to significant weight gain between fights, and like many fighters with a long torso and fluctuating physique, his midsection remains a clear weak spot when asked if he could envision. Benavidez defeating Morrell in 6 rounds, similar to his victory over the smaller and older Demetrius Andrade on November 25, 2023. Porter expressed that he was favoring Benavidez, but wasn't sure. He speculated that it might take 8 or 10 rounds for something like that to happen with Morrell. Given that Morrell was bigger, taller, and younger than Andrade, Porter clarified that although Morrell was the same height as Andrade, he was much stronger and had more physical attributes on his side. He described the fight as one with resistance on both ends, highlighting that it would be a beautiful matchup. Benavidez will have a hard time securing a knockout in this fight.
I think he has a really good jab. You know, he's a good fighter. He keeps his distance really well, so that I feel like he's gonna make it hard for David in the early rounds. But like we saw with Caleb Plant, you know, Caleb Plant was doing a great job boxing the first few rounds when he fought David, but then David just has that chip in his shoulder where he's just coming forward. Even on the clinches, he's still punching. You know, he's still getting punches in, and I feel like when you're boxing a guy like David and he just keeps coming forward no matter what you do, it just makes it hard mentally for you to keep that same game plan and stick to it, because you have a monster like him throwing big punches coming
without exposing himself to serious risk, either by getting stopped by Morrell or being systematically outboxed. He can't afford to approach this bout the same way he did against the smaller aging opponents. He dominated at super middleweight. His resume at 168 is paper-thin, not much better than Edgar Berlanga. Meanwhile, Canelo Alvarez admits he's torn on the winner of Saturday's light heavyweight showdown between David Benavidez and David Morrell. When Benavidez and Morrell, 2 fighters Canelo, has previously been associated with compete for the WBA regular and WBC interim belts, Canelo will undoubtedly be watching closely. The bookmakers pick to beat the UN. Beaten Cuban is Benavidez, but Alvarez believes the bout will be evenly matched. Canelo said that it's going to be a good fight. He predicted it to be a 50-50 fight after failing to get a fight against Canelo, who holds 3 of the 4 world titles. At 168, LBS Benav has advanced from super middleweight in June. The Mexican monster triumphed over former world champion Alexander Gazik in his debut light heavyweight bout. Meanwhile, Morrell, also stepping up to 175 lb, mark his entry into the division, with a points win against Rav in August. However, Andy Cruz anticipates a knockout win for David Morrell, the 2020 Olympic gold medalist crew.
Fight is that one?
That's 50-50 right there. If anything, 55-45 for Benavidez. Yeah. I love David versus David. I love everything about the fight. The thing I feel that Benavidez has over Morrell is experience, is true strength. You know, both of those guys are big guys, but I think Benavidez is more of the natural 175-pounder.
Yeah, you're like, Morrell's such a high-level technical fighter, but Jose mentioned what you just mentioned, like they feel like the experience is gonna eventually show through. Like, I don't know, take me into that, like how experience can trump like talent in technicality like that.
You know what? The thing that I know for this fight, with when you are in a competitive fight that's gonna go 12 rounds, of course you're prepared for the 12.
Compares Morrell to himself, noting that both share a relaxed, playful approach to the sport. Benavidez appears visibly tense, a mix of anger and anxiety as he gears up for his showdown with Morrell, watching the Mexican monster. It's clear he's carrying the weight of uncertainty, fully aware that this fight could be his undoing, but potentially rendering all the hard work of his career meaningless The realization that his time at the top may be coming to an end seems to haunt him, pushing him to adopt an intimidating demeanor in an attempt to shake Morrell's confidence. Benitez never sought this fight, having sidestepped Morrell's persistent call-out since 2022, and for good reason. For the past 5 years, he's been cashing in against older, smaller opponents who were well past their prime. A showdown with Morrell threatens to derail that lucrative streak, forcing him into a challenge he's long avoided. What I can say about Morrell is he's a typical Cuban fighter. He's always smiling and he's always dancing. I see him very similar to me, always joking and always dancing. Perhaps he's even worse him than me, said Andy Cruz to the media, analyzing the David Benavidez versus David Morrell fight for next Saturday. February 1st, Cruz continued about David Morrell. In terms of his focus for this fight, I see him really focused. It's going to be a difficult fight, but I think he's going to put on a good show. I see him winning. I don't just see him winning, I see him winning by knockout. Us fans are rallying behind Benavidez, viewing him as a top-tier fighter, and they won't take kindly to Morrell exposing him as a fraud. No one enjoys watching their idols unmasked as mere hype, leaving them feeling duped and disillusioned when Benavidez loses. They will leap from his sinking ship, leaving him adrift as he falls beneath the waves. Benz's defeat will be a hard pill to swallow for his fans. They've long hailed him as the top fighter in the 168B division, convinced he had what it takes to dethrone Canelo Alvarez. Yet they've rarely scrutinized his fighting style or the level of competition he's faced over his 12-year career. This blind loyalty raises serious questions. Looking at Benz's most recent bout against Alexander Guik makes it clear that he is a complete fool.
It's going to be, I think Morrell's going to have to find that shot that really, not only drops, but, concuss. He got to knock David Benavidez out. And there's fighters you can make quit. I don't think neither one of these fighters you can make quit. Sometimes you got to knock them out. And I think this is one of those type of fights where, in order to secure victory, in order to secure victory, one of these guys is going to have to end it with inside the distance. And I think when you look at, what they bring to the table, David Benavidez is going to have a little reach and size advantage.
And was never the fighter that the naive fans believed him to be compared. To Benz's thin resume, his performance makes it clear he's yet another carefully crafted fighter, propped up by bouts against aging, undersized opponent, while competing outside his true weight class. Light heavyweight contender Ado Kadik believes David Morrell's path to victory against David Benavidez lies in maintaining his composure through the crucial first 6 to 8 rounds. Meanwhile, Diego Pacho, a super middleweight contender, thinks David Benavidez will defeat David Morrell in a conversation. With Shazid, Pacho offered a sneak peek into the highly anticipated light heavyweight showdown, reflecting on his recent sparring sessions with Benavidez. However, his habit of repeatedly calling him David might leave viewers second-guessing which fighter he means. Maybe one of them should adopt the nickname Goliath. Just for this particular bout, Pacho told Zettel that Benavidez had been looking very impressive, having spent the past few weeks training alongside him. He praised its great shape and the amazing things he had been doing in the ring, calling him a monster. P expressed confidence that Benitez would handle business on February 1st and even suggested that he might secure a stoppage victory against David Morrell. Benavidez has earned his monster nickname thanks to his relentless, multifaceted attack. However, Pacho, who sparred with him just 3 months ago, highlighted the strength of Benz's defense. When asked about Benz's underrated abilities, Poo's eyes lit up as he emphasized Benz's defense. He pointed out that while Benitez often stands upright, his defensive skills were exceptional. Poo explained that Benavidez was very skilled at pulling back and then quickly countering with punches, making his defense surprisingly effective.